John had always dreamed of living in a peaceful neighborhood where he could relax after a busy day. After years of hard work, he finally bought a small, cozy house in a quiet part of town. The neighborhood looked perfect to him. The streets were clean, the trees were tall, and families waved to each other when they passed by. John felt lucky and proud to call this place home. When John and his wife Lisa moved in, they spent the first few days unpacking boxes and arranging their new house. Their 2 children, Mia and Lucas, were excited too. They loved their new rooms and the small yard outside where they could play. John looked at the front porch every evening and thought about how nice it would be to sit there and watch the sunset. The porch was small, but had enough space for a couple of chairs and maybe something more comfortable. One day, while sitting with a cup of tea, John had an idea. Why not add a porch swing, he thought. It would be perfect to relax on after work and to spend time with his family. He imagined swinging gently while the kids played nearby. The thought made him smile. John started looking online for the right porch swing. He wanted something simple but sturdy, a swing that would match the colors of his house. After a few days of searching, he found a beautiful wooden swing with soft cushions. It was just what he wanted, not too big, not too small, and very comfortable. He ordered it right away. A few days later, the porch swing arrived. John spent an afternoon putting it together. It took some time, but he enjoyed the work. He thought about all the moments he and his family would share on that swing. When he finished, he stood back and looked at it. The swing looked perfect, hanging under the porch roof, gently swinging in the light breeze. Lisa and the kids loved it too. Mia immediately sat on the swing and pushed off with her feet, laughing as she went back and forth. Lucas joined her, and soon the whole family was spending time there every evening. Sometimes John read books while swinging, and other times they talked about their day. The porch swing became their favorite spot in the house. For a few weeks, everything was peaceful and happy. John felt proud of his home and the warm feelings the porch swing brought. He noticed other neighbors sometimes stopped and smiled at his porch. Some waved hello when they passed by. The children played in their yards nearby, and the quiet street felt safe and calm. John did not worry about the neighborhood rules much. He had heard about the Homeowners Association, or HOA, when he bought the house, but he thought small things like a porch swing would be okay. After all, it was a personal choice and did not block the sidewalk or the view. He believed it was just a simple, harmless addition to his home. One sunny afternoon, John was outside working in the garden near the porch. He trimmed the bushes and watered the flowers. The swing sat quietly nearby, waiting for the evening when his family would return home from school and work. John smiled to himself, feeling grateful for this peaceful life. Suddenly he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he saw Mrs. Karen, an older woman from down the street. She was known to be very particular about neighborhood rules. Mrs. Karen had lived in the area for many years and was active in the HOA. She often talked about keeping the neighborhood nice and perfect. Mrs. Karen walked up to John. With a serious expression, "John," she said firmly, "I need to talk to you about your porch swing." John was surprised but nodded politely. "What is it, Mrs. Karen?" She looked at the swing and then back at John. "That swing is not approved by the HOA," she said. "You should have asked for permission before putting it up." Her voice was sharp, but John tried to stay calm. "I didn't know I needed approval for a porch swing," John replied. "It's just a small thing, and it doesn't cause any problems." Mrs. Karen shook her head. "Rules are rules. Everyone must follow them. If one person breaks the rules, others will too. It's important for the neighborhood to stay organized and beautiful." John wanted to explain more, but Mrs. Karen was already turning away. "Please take it down as soon as possible," she said over her shoulder. Then she walked back down the street, leaving John feeling confused. John stood there, looking at the swing. He thought about all the happy moments his family had already enjoyed there. The swing seemed harmless, and he could not imagine why it would be such a big issue. Maybe it was just a simple misunderstanding. That evening, John talked with Lisa and the kids about what had happened. Lisa listened carefully and said, "Maybe we should check the HOA rules and see what they say about porch swings." John agreed. Went online and read the HOA documents that came with their home purchase. The rules were long and detailed. Some parts were about lawns and paint colors, others about fences and decorations. There was a section about porch items, but it was not very clear about swings. John felt a little frustrated. The rules seemed strict in some ways, but vague in others. He was not sure if his swing was truly against the rules or if Mrs. Karen was being too strict the next day. John decided to talk to the HOA manager. Wanted to understand the rules better and find out if his porch swing was allowed. He called the HOA office and explained his situation. The manager said they would send someone to check the swing and get back to him while waiting. John continued to enjoy the porch swing with his family. Mia and Lucas loved playing there, and the gentle swinging helped John feel calm after long days. He hoped everything would be okay and that the issue would be solved quickly in the neighborhood. Some neighbors noticed the swing and smiled. A few even stopped to say hello when John was outside. Life seemed normal, but John could feel a little tension growing because of the complaint from Mrs. Karen. One afternoon, while John was on the porch swing, he saw Mrs. Karen again. This time, she was talking to a group of neighbors. They looked serious and were pointing toward John's house. John felt a little worried but decided to stay calm. He waved politely, but Mrs. Karen did not return the greeting. Instead, she shook her head and walked away. John wondered if the situation was getting worse. Despite the worry, John told himself to stay positive. He believed that talking and understanding would help. He loved his new home and wanted to be a good neighbor. For now, the porch swing stayed where it was. It was more than just a piece of furniture. It was a symbol of John's dream for a peaceful life filled with family and happiness. John hoped that soon the neighborhood would accept the swing too, and that the small trouble would pass like a quiet breeze. John thought that the problem with the porch swing would be small and easy to fix. He hoped that after talking to Mrs. Karen once, things would calm down. But soon, he found out that this was not the case. One bright morning, John was working. In his front yard, he was planting some new flowers near the walkway, trying to make the house look even more beautiful. The sun was warm but gentle, and a soft breeze made the leaves dance on the trees. It was the kind of peaceful day that John had always dreamed of when he decided to buy this home. As John worked, he heard footsteps coming up the sidewalk behind him. Turning around, he saw Mrs. Karen walking toward him again. This time, her face looked even more serious than before. She didn't smile or greet him warmly. Instead, she stopped in front of John and looked directly at the porch swing. "John," she said, her voice firm but calm. "I have to tell you again that the swing is not approved by the HOA. You should have gotten permission before putting it up." John wiped the sweat from his forehead and tried to stay calm. "Mrs. Karen, I understand that you are concerned, but I have read the HOA rules, and I don't see anything that clearly says I cannot have a porch swing. I thought it was a small thing that would be okay." Double quotes. Mrs. Karen shook her head slowly. "Hey, the rules say you must get approval for anything that changes the outside of your home. Porch swing is a change. It affects how the house looks. If everyone put things up without asking, the neighborhood would look messy and unorganized." John took a deep breath. He wanted to explain, but Mrs. Karen spoke quickly before he could say more. "I have already told the HOA about this. We'll be sending someone to inspect your porch. I hope you will remove the swing before things get worse." John felt a knot in his stomach. He did not want trouble, but he also did not want to lose the swing that brought his family so much joy. "Mrs. Karen," he said gently, "I want to be a good neighbor. Can we please find a way to solve this together?" Mrs. Karen looked at him for a moment, then nodded slightly. "I just want to keep our neighborhood beautiful and safe," she said. "That is all." After Mrs. Karen left, John stood near the porch swing and looked at it quietly. He thought about the evenings he spent there with Lisa and the kids, the quiet moments reading books or just watching the stars. It was hard to believe that something so simple could cause such problems. Later that day, John called the HOA office again. He wanted to ask more questions and explain his side of the story. The person on the phone was polite but firm. "I said, the HOA had received a complaint and must investigate. Someone would come by to inspect the porch and the swing soon." John felt a mixture of worry and hope. He hoped the inspector would see that the swing was safe and that it did not harm the look of the house. He prepared for the visit by cleaning the porch and making sure everything was neat. A few days later, a man from the HOA arrived. He introduced himself as Mr. Davis and said he was there to check if John's porch and swing followed the rules. John showed him the swing and explained how it was installed safely. Mr. Davis looked carefully, measuring the space and taking notes. After the inspection, Mr. Davis said he would send a report to the HOA board. He did not promise anything, but John felt that the man was fair and professional. John thanked him and hoped for the best. Despite the inspection, John soon noticed that the neighborhood felt different. Some neighbors avoided talking to him, and whispers could be heard when he walked by. The quiet friendliness he had first enjoyed was changing. One afternoon, as John was working in his garden, he saw Mrs. Karen again. She was speaking with a few other neighbors. They looked serious and seemed to be discussing something important. When Mrs. Karen saw John, she stopped and came over. "I've spoken to the HOA board again," she said. "They have not made a final decision yet, but they may ask you to remove the swing soon." John felt tired and frustrated. "Mrs. Karen, I want to do what is right, but I also want to keep the swing. It means a lot to my family. Can't we find a way to solve this without making it a big problem?" Mrs. Karen looked at him thoughtfully. "I understand you like the swing, but I have to think about the whole neighborhood. The rules are for everyone's good." John nodded slowly. "I will wait for the HOA's decision. But I hope we can all be kind and understanding while this is happening." Days passed, and John tried to focus on his family and work, but the worry about the porch swing stayed in his mind. He wanted to protect the happy moments he shared with Lisa and the kids. Every time he sat on the swing, he hoped for peace. One evening, Lisa sat next to John on the porch. "Maybe we should talk to some neighbors," she said. "If they understand how much the swing means to us, they might support us." John liked the idea. Over the next few days, he and Lisa visited neighbors, sharing their story and listening to others. Some neighbors were kind and said they liked the swing. Others were quiet or did not want to get involved. Still, John felt that most people wanted the neighborhood to be friendly and peaceful. He believed that if they all talked more, the problem could be solved without anger or arguments then. Something unexpected happened. One afternoon, John was surprised to see police cars arrive in front of his house. Lights flashed, and officers walked toward his porch. John's heart beat fast. He did not know why the police were there. Before he could ask, Mrs. Karen came outside from her house. She looked calm but serious as she spoke to the officers. John watched, confused and worried. The officers approached John and said they had received a 911 call about a possible safety issue with the porch swing. John explained that the swing was safe and that he had been cooperating with the HOA. The police officers checked the swing carefully. After a few minutes, they said there was no danger and thanked John for his cooperation. John felt relieved, but also shocked that the situation had reached this point. Mrs. Karen told John that she had called 911 because she believed the swing was a safety hazard and a violation of neighborhood rules. John wished things had not gotten so serious over a simple porch swing. That evening, John talked with Lisa and the children. Mia was confused and a little scared. Lucas asked why anyone would call the police over a swing. John tried to explain, calmly telling them that sometimes people have strong opinions about rules. Even if the problem seemed small, John decided to keep trying to solve the problem peacefully. He believed that kindness and understanding could help the neighborhood heal. He hoped that one day soon, everyone could enjoy the quiet street without worry or fear. The porch swing stayed on the porch, still swinging gently in the evening breeze. It was a small thing, but to John and his family, it was a symbol of hope, comfort, and the dream of a happy home. After the police visit, John hoped the worst was over. He thought the officers would understand that his porch swing was safe and that the issue would end quietly. But soon, he realized the problem was far from finished. A few days later, John was sitting on his porch swing one evening, enjoying the cool air and the sounds of birds settling down for the night. Lisa was inside preparing dinner, and the children were doing homework. It was a peaceful moment, and John tried to put the worries aside. Suddenly, he heard the familiar sound of sirens again, looked up, and saw more police cars pulling onto the street. This time, there were not just 2 officers, but several. His heart began to race. What was happening now? The police car stopped right in front of John's house. Officers quickly got out and approached the porch. John stood up, confused and a little scared. He had done nothing wrong, and he could not understand why the police were here again. Before he could say anything, Mrs. Karen appeared from her house across the street. She was calm but looked determined. She spoke quietly with one of the officers, pointing toward the porch swing. John watched silently, feeling more worried by the second. One of the officers came to John and said, "Sir, we received another call about your porch swing. There are concerns about safety and neighborhood rules." John took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "I don't understand. The swing is safe. The HOA has already inspected it." The officer nodded. "We know. But we have to respond to every call we get. Please cooperate with us." John stepped aside as the officers examined the swing once more. They checked the chains holding it, the structure of the porch, and the space around it. After some time, they told John there was no danger and the swing was secure. John thanked them and asked if he could speak with Mrs. Karen. "Why are you doing this? Why call the police twice over a porch swing?" Mrs. Karen looked at John steadily. "I want to protect the neighborhood. I think the swing is a problem. It could be unsafe, and it was put up without permission. I had to act." John felt a mix of sadness and frustration. "But this is our home. The swing is part of what makes it feel like home for my family." Mrs. Karen sighed. "I understand that, but I have to follow the rules too." The officers finished their check and left. John stood on the porch, feeling tired and confused. He loved his home and wanted to be a good neighbor, but the situation was growing harder every day. The next morning, John received a letter from the HOA. It was formal and clear. They stated that because of the complaints, John must remove the porch swing within 2 weeks. If he did not, there would be fines and possible legal action. John read the letter again and again. His heart sank. He knew the swing meant a lot too. His family was not just a piece of furniture, but a place of comfort, laughter, and togetherness. He thought about what to do next. Should he obey the HOA and remove the swing? Or should he stand up for his family and try to keep it? John decided to attend the next HOA meeting. He wanted to speak in person, explain his feelings, and ask for a solution. Maybe talking directly to the board and neighbors would help them understand. The day of the meeting arrived. John dressed neatly and brought his family with him. Mia and Lucas came to support him. The meeting was held in a small community hall filled with neighbors and HOA members. When it was John's turn to speak, he stood up and took a deep breath. "Thank you for letting me speak," he began. "I want to talk about the porch swing on my front porch." Told the room how the swing was a place where his family spent time together, shared how it helped him relax after work and how the children loved playing there. John explained that he did not know the swing needed approval and that he had tried to follow the rules once he learned about them. Some neighbors listened quietly. Others looked doubtful. Mrs. Karen sat near the front, watching carefully. John continued, "I understand the importance of rules to keep our neighborhood nice. But I hope we can find a way to allow small things like this that bring happiness without hurting anyone." After he finished, several neighbors spoke. Some supported John and said they liked the idea of a friendly, welcoming neighborhood where families could enjoy their homes. Others said rules must be followed to keep things fair. Mrs. Karen spoke. Last, she thanked John for sharing but repeated her concerns about safety and order. "Rules are for everyone," she said. "We cannot make exceptions." The HOA board then spoke. They said they would review the situation and consider making clearer rules about porch decorations like swings. They promised to let John know their decision soon. John felt a small hope growing inside. At least his voice was heard. After the meeting, some neighbors came to talk to John. They thanked him for speaking up and wished him luck. Lisa smiled and hugged him. Mia and Lucas were proud of their dad. Back home, John looked at the porch swing. It still hung quietly, ready to hold his family in its gentle embrace. He hoped that soon the neighborhood could find peace, and the swing could stay. But the days after the meeting were not easy. John noticed some neighbors still avoided him. Some left notes warning about the rules. The tension in the air was clear. One evening, as John sat on the porch swing, he saw a group of people from the neighborhood gathered nearby. They whispered and pointed toward his house. John felt the weight of the situation heavily, yet he refused to give up. He knew the swing meant more than just comfort. It was a symbol of hope and family unity. John believed that kindness, patience, and open talk would help solve the problem. He spent time with Lisa and the children, enjoying the small joys of life. They read books, told stories, and laughed together on the porch swing. For John, those moments were worth fighting for. Then, just as John began to feel the strain, something surprising happened. One of the neighbors who had been quiet until now came over to talk. She said she liked the swing and thought the neighborhood should be more understanding. This small support gave John new strength. He realized that not everyone was against him, and maybe with time, the neighborhood could heal. For now, the porch swing kept swinging gently in the wind. It waited patiently for a future where everyone could share the joy of simple moments together. John knew the road ahead might be long, but he was ready to face it, for his family, for his home, and for the hope of kindness in the neighborhood. After the HOA meeting, the neighborhood seemed to be divided in quiet ways that John could feel but did not always see. Some neighbors were kind and smiled when they passed by, but others kept their distance or whispered when they thought no one was listening. The porch swing had become a symbol of a deeper disagreement about rules, fairness, and what it meant to be part of a community. One afternoon, John was outside trimming the bushes near his porch when he noticed a small group of neighbors gathered. Under a tree across the street, they were speaking softly but looked serious. Among them was Mrs. Karen, who seemed to be leading the discussion. John felt uneasy but tried to stay calm. He reminded himself that he had done nothing wrong. The swing was safe, and he had spoken honestly at the HOA meeting. Later that week, a letter arrived from the HOA. It was more formal than before and carried a tone that made John's heart sink. The letter said that while the board understood John's position and the support from some neighbors, the official decision was still that the porch swing violated community rules. The letter asked John to remove the swing within 10 days or face penalties, including fines. John read the letter several times. He felt crushed, but also determined. This swing was more than just wood and cushions. It was the place where he had watched his children grow, where he and Lisa shared quiet moments, where laughter filled the evenings. He knew he had to fight to keep it, but he wanted to do so peacefully and with respect. That evening, John sat down with Lisa and explained the letter. "They want us to take the swing down," he said quietly. Lisa reached out and took his hand. "Can't give up now," she said softly. "Maybe it's time to get more neighbors involved. If enough people support us, the HOA might change their mind." The next day, John and Lisa started visiting neighbors one by one. They shared their story, explained why the swing was important, and asked for their thoughts. Some neighbors were happy to talk and even agreed to support John. Others listened politely, but said they preferred to stay neutral. A few still said the rules were the rules, and everyone must follow them. One afternoon, as John was speaking with Mr. and Mrs. Lee, an elderly couple down the street, they offered to help. "We have been part of this community for many years," Mrs. Lee said kindly. "It's important that people feel at home here. We'll speak at the next HOA meeting for you." John felt a warm glow of hope. It was good to have friends and allies. Slowly, more neighbors joined in, writing letters and talking to the HOA on John's behalf. Meanwhile, Mrs. Karen continued to keep a close eye on the situation. She attended every HOA meeting and made sure the rules were enforced strictly. She believed she was protecting the neighborhood, but her actions made the community feel tense. One day, John received an invitation to a special community gathering. The HOA planned to hold a public meeting to discuss the rules and listen to Neighbors' opinions. This is an important chance for John to speak again and for others to share their views. When the day arrived, the community hall was full. Some neighbors came to support John. Others came to support the HOA's strict rules. There were also curious residents who wanted to see how the problem would be solved. John took a deep breath as he stepped up to speak. "Thank you all for being here," he began. "I want to say again how much the porch swing means to my family. It is not just a piece of furniture. It is part of our home, our happiness, and our memories." He looked around the room and saw faces both friendly and serious. "I understand the importance of rules, but sometimes rules need to be flexible when they do not hurt anyone. The swing is safe and does not cause problems." Some neighbors nodded in agreement, and a few smiled. John continued, "I hope we can find a way to keep the swing and also respect the community. Maybe clearer and fairer rules can help everyone understand what is allowed." After John spoke, others shared their opinions. Mrs. Karen stood and said firmly, "I appreciate John's feelings, but rules exist to protect the look and safety of our neighborhood. Cannot make exceptions for one person." The discussion went on for some time. Motions were calm but strong. At the end, the HOA board promised to review the rules carefully and work on better guidelines that were clear and fair for all residents. John left the meeting feeling tired but hopeful. He had spoken from the heart and heard voices of support. Lisa hugged him as they walked to their car. "You did great," she said softly. "No matter what happens, we stood up for what we believe." In the days that followed, John noticed the neighborhood slowly changing again. Some neighbors who had been distant began to wave or say hello. Others remained quiet, but the air felt less heavy. John continued to spend evenings on his porch swing with Lisa and the children. They told stories, shared dreams, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of being together. The swing creaked gently as it moved, carrying their laughter and hopes, though the fight was not yet over. John believed that understanding and kindness could bring the community closer. He hoped that one day soon, everyone could live peacefully, respecting both the rules and the feelings of their neighbors. The porch swing remained a quiet symbol of patience, family love, and the hope for a kinder, more welcoming neighborhood. After the police visit and the HOA meeting, things in the neighborhood started to change. John noticed that some neighbors began to treat him differently. Some smiled and waved when they saw him outside, but others avoided him or whispered behind his back. The porch swing had become a small symbol of a larger disagreement in the community. Some people wanted to follow all the rules strictly, while others believed in kindness and understanding. One afternoon, John was trimming the bushes near his porch when he saw a group of neighbors standing across the street. They were talking quietly but looked serious. Mrs. Karen was with them, and she seemed to be leading the conversation. John felt a little uneasy, but tried to stay calm. He reminded himself that he had done nothing wrong. The swing was safe, and he had tried to follow the rules. A few days later, John received another letter from the HOA. This letter was more formal and clear. It said that although the board understood John's feelings and some neighbors' support, the official decision was that the porch swing violated the community's rules. John was asked to remove the swing within 10 days or face penalties like fines. John read the letter over and over, feeling sad but determined. The swing was more than just a piece of wood and cushions. It was where he had spent many happy moments with his family. He knew he had to keep fighting, but he wanted to do it peacefully and respectfully. That evening, John talked with Lisa and explained the letter. Lisa took his hand and said, "We can't give up now. Maybe if more neighbors support us, the HOA will listen." The next day, John and Lisa began visiting neighbors to share their story. They explained why the swing was important and asked for support. Some neighbors were kind and said they liked the swing. Some listened quietly but stayed neutral. A few said that rules were rules and should be followed by everyone. One day, John spoke with Mr. and Mrs. Lee, an elderly couple who had lived in the neighborhood for many years. Mrs. Lee said, "It's important for people to feel at home. We will support you at the next HOA meeting." John felt hopeful. Slowly, more neighbors wrote letters or talked to the HOA to support him. Mrs. Karen still watched closely. She attended every HOA meeting and made sure the rules were enforced. Strictly, she believed she was protecting the neighborhood, but many people felt tense because of her actions. One day, Bois sent a special invitation to the community for a public meeting. This was a chance for neighbors to speak and share their views about the rules in the porch swing. When the meeting day came, the hall was full. Some neighbors came to support John. Some supported the strict rules, and others were just curious. John spoke first. He thanked everyone for coming and said, "The porch swing means a lot to my family. It's not just furniture, it's a part of our home and our happiness." He explained that he did not know he needed permission for the swing, and that he wanted to follow the rules but also keep the swing that brought joy to his family. Some neighbors nodded and smiled. John added, "Sometimes rules should be flexible when no one is harmed. I hope we can find a way to keep the swing and respect the neighborhood." After John, Mrs. Karen spoke. She said, "I understand John's feelings, but the rules are there to keep our neighborhood safe and beautiful. We can't make exceptions." The discussion went on calmly, but strongly. At the end, the HOA promised to review the rules carefully and try to make clearer, fairer guidelines for everyone. John left the meeting feeling tired but hopeful. Lisa hugged him and said, "You did well. No matter what, you stood up for your family." In the days after, John saw the neighborhood slowly change. Some neighbors who had been distant began to say hello again. Others stayed quiet, but the tension was less. John kept spending evenings on his porch swing with Lisa and the kids. They told stories, laughed, and enjoyed being together. Swing moved gently, carrying their hopes and dreams. Though the fight was not over, John believed kindness and patience could bring the community closer. He hoped that one day everyone could live peacefully, respecting rules and feelings alike. The porch swing stayed quietly, a symbol of love, patience, and hope. For a kinder neighborhood,